Recently, I picked up a full roll of BU or Mint State type Morgan dollars, and I went ahead and put them in sleeves, and I thought, you know what? I bet you they haven't been searched for any VAMs, so I figured for today, we'd go through all 20 of these Morgan dollars to see if we possibly have a more valuable or collectible VAM. Hey everyone, it's RobFindsTreasure and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing a VAM hunt on these 20 Morgan dollars like I said in the intro, and I'm sure there's some of you who already know what VAM stands for and what it means, but in case you're new to the channel or if you don't know, I figured I would take just a second to cover what that actually is. So what are VAMs? VAMs are piece or Morgan silver dollars with a unique die variety that was identified in a book called The Comprehensive Catalog and Encyclopedia of Morgan and Piece Dollars. Now, this catalog was published by Leroy C. Van Allen and A. George Mallis, who combined the initials of their last names to produce the moniker VAM. That's Van Allen Mallis. The enormous popularity of noting the many die varieties found, especially on Morgan dollars, has led to the term VAM being used to describe practically any deviation from the normal Morgan and Piece silver dollar for that year in mint. Now, without getting too technical, I'm going to go ahead and let you know that every single Morgan and Piece dollar definitely has a VAM, and that's just the die pairings of the obverse and reverse dies. But some are a lot more collectible than others, and some are a lot more scarce than others. Now, if you're wondering how certain VAMs are created, it's pretty basic. Bottom line is, after striking several coins, the dies do tend to have problems. Therefore, the mints use different or multiple number of coin dies every year just to produce coins. And if you're going to have multiple dies that you use to create to strike the same year and mint of the coin, obviously there could be slight imperfections or even slight differences in the design of the coin die itself. So that's the first time you could have some different die pairings that lead to different VAMs. The second opportunity is when they maintain or perform maintenance on a coin die. Now, obviously, they don't want to keep producing multiple coin dies for every year in mint, so sometimes a die has to be reworked, and if they rework it, it can lead to some minor errors like die cracks, scratches, over polishing, some over tooling, things like that. So anyway, that's why we have different VAMs or different die pairings, and that's also why we have different imperfections in the way the coins look, even if it's the same year in mint. So, now that we've got a little history lesson or a little bit of educational information, I think it's time for us to go ahead and start going through these Morgan dollars to see if we have any collectible VAMs. I will tell you up front, I'm just going to start hunting them off camera. If I come across any VAMs on any of these Morgans, I'll stop. I'll be sure to show you what I found, how I know it's that VAM, and then what I plan to do with it as far as submitting it or just putting it aside. Just want to point out really quick that I'll be using VAM World 2.0, the Morgan VAMs by date, to go ahead and take a look for different die varieties. I'll have this site listed below if you'd like to check it out. If you click on 1878, for example, all I have to do is figure out which design I have. And then if I scroll down, I can see all the different recognized VAMs, and there are a ton for every single year in mint. I will make a quick mention. P stands for a PCGS recognized VAM. N stands for NGC recognized. So if they don't have a P or N next to it and you're trying to submit a VAM for submission to one of these grading services, it needs to have this next to it. Otherwise, you won't be sending it in because they won't recognize it. I will also make mention that ANACS will recognize any one of these die varieties. So you can send any coin with a VAM to ANACS and it'll be certified. As long as it's the right one, of course. All right, man, this is a long intro. Let's get to the hunt. Well, it didn't take long. The first Morgan dollar did not have any VAMs that I could identify, but the second one does. I've got an 1878 Philadelphia under the microscope there, probably in a high XF to a low AU condition. Not as nice as I thought it was to be in that roll, but still a nice Morgan. First thing I noticed is we've got the 7/8 tail feathers. Okay, so that's the first thing I noticed is I have the 7/8 tail feathers, and that's a cool one by itself. I then took a look at the arrows and I noticed they're parallel, and we had the long knock or the long arrow shaft. So I have an 1878 7/8 tail feathers with the long knock. So I went ahead and went to VAM World. I went ahead and went through all of the long knock 7/8 tail feathers, and I identified mine as VAM 38 7/8 tail feathers 7/5, which I'll cover that in a second. I could read all this, but at the same time, I'm not going to do that. Bottom line is you can see we have the 7/8 tail feathers. It has the long knock. On this particular one, we have doubling on Liberty. We have a nice notch or 7/5 on the 1878. And we have heavy doubling on some of the motto and on the stars. You can see doubling on the stars. Let me bring up my coin really quick and I'll show you what we got here. We'll start with the reverse, long knock. We've got the 7/8. When I flip the coin around and we take a look at Liberty, you can see there's doubling on Liberty. When I bring up the stars, you can see we have doubling on the stars, clear doubling. When I brought up E pluribus unum, we have doubling on E pluribus unum as well. Pretty obvious doubling. And when I brought up the date, we have that notch on the 7, doubling on the 8, and doubling on the 8. So I am without a doubt certain that we have a VAM 38 right here. And again, it's not in the greatest condition. I'm thinking it's probably a high XF. If they wanted to be generous, maybe they would give me a low AU. And for those wondering, this is not a top 100. It's not a hot 50. It's just a recognized VAM that does have more value. In an XF condition, it's about $100. In an AU condition, it's about $150. So it's a nice VAM to have. Definitely cool that I have it. And it's definitely worth more than just being an 1878. So I'll definitely take it. But this one will not be submitted because by the time I paid for what I paid for it, plus submission and variety attribution, it's not going to be worth much more. And I wouldn't make any money on it should I ever sell it. So it's a nice one. I'll put it back in the flip. I'll label it. We are 1 for 2 so far. And now it's time to go back and see if we have any more VAMs on the rest of them. Well, continuing along, we struck out on several in a row, but finally, I've got an 1888 Philadelphia Morgan under the scope with some cool toning, and it looks like it's in mint state condition. And yeah, we've got a doubled eyelid right there. And that is the doubled eyelid. I've been looking for this one for a long time. Definitely have found it. You can see it clearly there. And not only is it the VAM 18 doubled eyelid, I even took a look for the 8 in the denticles far date. And when I slide down the coin to the date, first thing I'm looking for is a little notch in the denticles. And I'll bring up what the VAM looks like under here. You can see there's a little bulge. That is the top of another 8 in the denticles. And when I look at my coin, it's tough to see because of the toning, but you can definitely make out that we have that bulge right there. That little bulge right there is the same as that one right there. So we definitely have a VAM 18 doubled eyelid, 8 in the denticles, and I'll take it. Now this one actually is considered a hot 50 VAM, Morgan VAM. So when I bring up PCGS, it's right here, VAM 18 doubled eyelid, and mine's in mint state. So I'm gonna say it's somewhere between a mint state 62 and maybe even a 64. So this is somewhere between 130 and 210 PCGS value, although they've been selling for about 160 lately. But basically what I guess I'm trying to say here is this is a nice enough one that I'm going to consider submitting it. Let me get it flipped up. That way I can go ahead and show it to you in the flip, and we'll take a look at the condition together. All right, we've got it flipped up and identified, and yeah, there's full mint luster on this coin. It's got some toning. It's got some odd toning spots, and it's got a few little dots here and there, but I still think this coin is in a mint state condition. If they wanted to be really picky, maybe they give it a 62, but it doesn't have a lot of chatter. This coin looks pretty nice. So if they can get away from some of the toning that's on it and some of the irregularities like the spots that you can see in the fields, I still think it's nice. Those probably can be removed, but I'm not going to play with this coin at all. We're going to leave it like it is. Again, I'm not 100% certain I'll submit it, but because it's a hot 50, I probably will. We now have 2 VAMs through, I guess, the first 15 or 14 Morgan dollars, and that's pretty good. I have a handful left. Let me go through them, and if we find another, I'll be back with that information. Well, we've gone through the rest of the Morgan dollars, and unfortunately, we didn't have any more VAMs, but that being said, we did have 2. Once again, we had the 1878 7/8 tail feathers VAM 38 7/5 and the 1888 VAM 18, doubled eyelid, 8 in identicals. I'll definitely take these two. One's a Hot 50, one's a normal recognized VAM. Both are recognized by PCGS. This one's worth a little bit more because of a Hot 50 and because it's in better condition. This one, man, I don't know. It's a tough call. We'll have to see. I might submit it anyway, just so I get another VAM in my collection. I was going to go through some of the Cole Morgans that I have, and I call them Cole. They're in decent shape, probably below XF. But because of their condition, I didn't want to do it for this video. I would thought about doing it. Had we not found any in these nicer Morgans, I probably would have included a clip of that. But I think because this video is already going to be 10 or 11 minutes, we'll go ahead and stop it here. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys with all that VAM information in the beginning. I know a lot of you have asked a lot of questions about VAMs when I've posted previous hunts, so I figured I would include it this time for those that may have wanted it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this Morgan VAM hunt. If you did, I would definitely appreciate that thumbs up. And as always, everyone, happy hunting, and thanks for watching.